Right, let's discuss this further now with former Public Enterprises Director General Kgathatso Tlhakudi. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. I suppose your contention about the deal, among other things, has always been this question of whether or not the strategic equity partner can come up with the money, one, but two, the whole question of the under-evaluation of South African Airways and its assets. Are you surprised that it has come to this?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And thank you very much for having me on your show, Gordhan. So many lies have been told between the beginning of 2021 to today to try to sustain what was always an illogical transaction. You try to attach, to say that the asset is worth, you can sell it for 51 rand, when you have assets of anywhere between 10 to 15 billion rands in the business. You have a strategic partner that is preferred, who comes on late into the game, and no proper due diligence has never been done on that particular entity to ensure that they have the funds to consummate the transaction. So there was always, a lot of red flags that should have been heeded by both Minister Gordhan and Cabinet on this transaction. And I just want to say what should not be forgotten is that 7,000 people lost their jobs at SAA. So it's quite ironic that Minister Gordhan can say to the SAA staff that they will not lose their jobs. 7,000 of their colleagues are out there without jobs. Mango is no more. SA Express is no more because the restructuring of SAA was not handled professionally and with integrity.
Yeah. How could you have gone through all these processes? I mean, all these transaction advisor, department process, DG, which they say you would have been a part of, the business plan, rescue plan. You've got now to the point where you have identified a strategic equity partner. There's an MOU, there's a sale of purchase agreement, and then the competition commission processes and the tribunal processes. Yet you would not have done a simple thing as due diligence.
Exactly. And that's where, some of the approvals that authorities have given on this transaction needs to be relooked at. The Competition Commission and the tribunal actually approved what was an illegal transaction. Obviously, they confined themselves to competition issues, but they should have looked at this transaction much more widely. And they should have asked a government in this case to say, what was the process that was followed to produce this particular entity? Its preferred SEP, because the Competition Commission and the Tribunal are organs of state. They are there to protect the interests of our people, and they have failed to do that. The SIU, we are still waiting for them on the proclamation they said they were getting from the president. We hope the president will come to the party and issue that proclamation so that this transaction can be looked into. A lot of lies have been told, including my own involvement in this particular transaction. That needs to be investigated so that South Africans can get the facts and the truth. I still insist that Minister Gordhan took over the process with his advisors to produce Takatso as a strategic partner. And he did so irregularly and illegally. And I was fired for that reason. I was fired summarily without being given a chance to produce my defense on the 5th of June 2023. Because I was due to appear in Parliament on the 7th of June 2023. Yeah. And the minister went as far as to say to Parliament, you don't have to listen to him now, he's no longer a DG. So that is the damage that this minister has left behind as he steps out of that position, but he must be held accountable.
So you still contend with the fact that the fact that you were fired for interfering with an appointment process is neither here nor there? You're saying it's not a big issue?
That is not the issue. The issue was there's 7 to 10 billion rands of value that was going to accrue to Takatso illegally and irregularly so. And I still insist on that. And a proper investigation into this. And I hope that the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises will be given an opportunity to finish their work. Yeah. Because there are already traces that process, which has really been superb and had a lot of integrity, that it is being is being interfered with. There's already indications of that.
So at one point you went to Parliament and you said the department must halt the takeover, but two, an independent investigation, as you say, must ensue, be it with the SIU or if there's criminality, then indeed even the National Prosecuting Authority should come on board here. But you believe there is irrefutable evidence of corruption. What could that evidence be?
Well, the first thing is how this entity was chosen, how it was selected. You've had politicians going to jail for pre-selecting suppliers or for pre-selecting beneficiaries of these kind of transactions. So that is the first point where illegality happened. Our constitution and our procurement rules are very clear in terms of ensuring a transparent and competitive process whenever you are handling state resources. This did not happen here. We had a clear case of the assets of the state being deliberately undervalued to take the value out of the state and let it accrue to an oligarch who was chosen by the minister. That is corruption right there. Minister educated us quite well with regard to state capture. This is exactly corruption through state capture that we had on our hands here. And the authorities must come to the party. And if I'm also found wanting here, I should be held accountable because I was the DG in that department. But I know with regard to this transaction, I did things properly. The first share sale and purchase agreement that was put before me in November 2021, I rejected it. And that was really what pushed, what got the minister to get the mechanizations going, to get me out by obviously, I think it was May 2022 when I was suspended. And eventually I got fired in June last year. So, yes.
So your view is that the 3 billion rands would not have been realized, even though Takatso are saying, well, they are more than ready to actually meet that requirement, but because of the delays, that opportunity has now significantly diminished. And of course, the environment has changed also in aviation. I think I heard something to the tune of the assets now would be valued a little bit more. There's a 1 billion rands in operations that the minister says is now there, and there's also, I think, a value now of 4.5 billion. Are you saying that is still pretty much below the value of what they should be getting?
Well, Takatso should show us on the 14th of February 2022 when they signed the share sale and purchase agreement. One of the terms in that was that, obviously, that they will provide 3 billion rands. Did they have 3 billion rands?
Just send me the link. All right.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah. I'm saying Takatso should show us on the 14th of February 2022 when they signed the share sale and purchase agreement. Did they have the 3 billion rands? And the department must show South Africans prior to that day, did they do a due diligence that showed that Takatso had 3 billion rands to consummate the deal? And I can tell you now the answer to both questions is going to be no, they have not complied. Even today, if they are saying they have the funds that they can put before, they should, they can issue that, the statement or produce the evidence for South Africans to make their own assessment as to whether they have the funds to do this. But what I know for sure was this transaction was premised on SA assets being used to raise the money to recapitalize it. In essence, what Takatso would have done would have taken the assets, went to the bank and say, you're in possession of SAA, give us the money and put it against the balance sheet of SAA. So they would have gotten all this 7 to 10 billion rands of value for nothing. If anything, also leveraged the assets to get 3 billion rands of working capital that they needed. And they had a timetable by which they will produce that 1.8 billion. The 3 billion. And they also said, the state will pay you for the assets through preference shares over a period of time. But all of us, we know a little bit about corporate finance. No, you will need to generate profits to pay dividends, and there has to be free cash flow. So it's always dependent on whether the board declares those dividends. If they don't, the state may never get paid for the assets that were taken over by Takatso. So this was a corrupt deal. in a nutshell. And you can speak to anyone who understands a little bit about corporate governance and corporate finance. They will tell you the same thing.
So for somebody who would have been there and privy to the agreements and the terms and the conditions, at least at the time when you were there, is it possible at this point to find a perfect fit for SAA where we are right now? Or is the airline okay to operate on its own now? Has it turned around?
Well, the airline will still need to be capitalized. They need more aircraft. The market is very receptive to SAA. We have seen what the price of a ticket to fly around the country is today. So that capacity that SAA will bring into the market is very much needed. SAA was obviously the only international operator in South Africa. We need that flag to be in London. We need it to be in Frankfurt. We need it to be in Beijing. We need it to be in Mumbai. So that we can bring business people who are interested in investing in this country here. We can bring tourists that want to come and see our country, the beautiful country we have here. And we know from experience that destinations like ours, end-of-the-world destinations, the same as South America, Australia, and New Zealand, you need state participation strongly in the airline industry to ensure that you have the traffic that you require to sustain the economy. So that is needed. And of course, the room for a private player to come in, I'm sure there is. I'm sure the board that is there at SAA and the executive team do have the capacity to go out and look for the right partner for SAA who will be able to bring in the technology, obviously access to markets, as well as the skills which were lost when 7,000 people lost their jobs at SAA. So there's still room for that, but it must be done with integrity, and that obviously will be dependent on the state. If the state continues to say we can't put more money into SAA, then the leadership at SAA must go and look for the right investors. And there were good investors that had come forward at the time, by the way, with the last SCP process at SAA.
Mr. Tlhakudi, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us and coming on this evening. That is Mr. Tlhakudi, the former DG at the Department of Public Enterprises.